Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us again for the third installment here of our college webinar series. Just so you're aware, there was a little bit of an issue uploading the boys webinar last week to YouTube, so we just directly linked the link straight to the file on a Google Drive, which is now on the webinar homepage. If you want to go back and replay that, those links are up on that homepage. So we will dive straight into tonight here on our third part of the series. If you do want to have your video on tonight, you are welcome to do so. I know Coach Schufelt and Coach Masterson said it went really well last week, and we definitely want to incorporate some more interaction, and we'll have some polling here. It's actually our first time trying out Zoom polls, so we'll be looking for some feedback, and we want to make this more engaging here in our third week. And as always, if you have questions, feel free to put them probably in the chat, just so we're not like cluttering too many voices speaking. So tonight, all right, so tonight, our third part. Coach Schufelt, you want to get us going here with what's next?
I certainly will. So, yep, welcome to the third meeting, guys. We hope that you all had a good Memorial Day weekend. I can't go without saying that Coach Liz Masterson decided to add a little guy running on the treadmill for this week's meeting in hopes that everyone is off and running with what they need and everything that they need to know to get started and move forward with this process. So there's Coach Liz for you and her jokes. So that welcome to week 3, and Jack, you want to go to the next slide there?
Yep.
So how this is going to work today is we're going to focus on the school visits and doing your research along with those visits. So we'll talk about what you need, what you should and shouldn't do before visiting a campus, some tips and advice for during your visit, and then what you should look to do following a visit that you take. I know right now visits are they're not happening on campus, but coaches are finding ways to do the virtual tours and set up Zoom calls with players. So this information will still be relevant, and it's just making it work with the times that we're in. So how it's going to work today is that we're going to have 3 different sections here: the before campus visit, during your visit, and after your visit. But we will go through a poll, kind of like a questionnaire for you guys. That's interactive, so you'll have to answer the questions. Don't worry. The questions the results of each question will be anonymous, so your name will not, if you get an answer wrong, it's not going to say Erica Yancey, you're wrong, good try. It'll just have an anonymous poll and a percentage as to how many people picked what answer. And then each coach will kind of go through and talk about the right and wrong answers to those polls and give you a little more information regarding the different times of your campus visits. So yeah, it's going to be a good session for you guys today. Make sure you're ready to answer the polls in a timely, because like we said, we want to keep it to about 40-45 minutes like we have in the past. So I think before campus visits is with Coach Howlett, and looks like Jack's got that poll ready to go.
You should be able to go through and answer these 3 questions to start off our first section. All right, we'll wrap it up in like 30 seconds here. I think most are in, but I don't know if any of the parents are going through and answering any of these questions either. So I'm seeing we're pretty close to full completion. All right, we'll wrap it up. And now, Coach Howlett, you should be able to see the results, correct?
I can see the results.
Perfect. Take it over, and I'll certainly scroll down if you need to. So.
Okay, so do you want to just go to the next slide, Jack?
Yeah, that's probably easier to see. Can you still see both?
Yep.
Perfect.
All right, great. So thanks for answering, everybody. When we go over that first question, who's the most important person for you to meet, you know, tailor it to yourself. So yes, all of these people and departments that we have on here are important, but where you are in the process, it won't all look the same. You know, sometimes you would have already visited a campus and visited the department, academic department of interest. So you wouldn't need to go and revisit that and do that again. You want to make sure that your visit, you're getting everything out of it and that you're enjoying it to the max, right? So be prepared, talk with your parents, see what you really, really want to do while you're there, and the people that are going to be important in playing a role in making your decision and giving you the most information out of that visit. So going to question 2, asking your coach for a visit itinerary. Absolutely. You want to know what you're going to be doing during the day. You want to know what time you should be turning up. You want to know where you should be meeting the first person. You want to have a campus map so you're prepared and you can look over it before you even start your journey. You want to make sure that you are getting as much information about your visit as possible, and you can have a hand in that. You know, I speak for myself when prospective student athletes contact me and ask for a visit itinerary and tell me that they'd like to meet with admissions, financial aid, some current players and myself. It's fantastic. Now I can build the itinerary around what they're looking to do. If it's going to span, you know, a longer period of time, I'll also ask them if they want to have lunch there together on campus, so we can implement that, because we also have to be mindful of your time as well. Some people, if you're going to visit colleges that aren't right here in Rochester, you may be visiting multiple colleges during one day. So you have to budget and plan your time as well to get most out of that day. So as much information as you can give the coach in what you're looking to achieve while you're on campus and who you're looking to meet with, it makes our lives much easier. The last thing I want to do is get you all the way to campus and then sit you in a classroom that you don't really care about, and all of a sudden now that's soured your visit. You want to be upfront in what you're looking to do and who you're looking to meet with to get the most out of it, right? So, you know, make sure that you're doing your research before, be prepared, what it'll look like to have a successful visit, and then in speaking with your coach, you know, asking what the itinerary will look like, who am I meeting, where am I meeting, and then do your research, because again, just like you may have to budget your time during the day, so does probably the coach. So if now you're meant to be meeting them at 10 o'clock in their office, and now it's 10:05 and you send them a text and say, "Coach, where's your office?" It's not a great start, right? So look at a campus map. Hopefully just ask them to include a campus map within the itinerary. Okay, and then make sure that you plan your route to know where you're going so you can show up on time and meet with that first person so the itinerary can move along smoothly. You know, that third question, send the coach questions before your visit, absolutely appropriate. Because again, the last thing you want to do is sit in a coach's office and listen to things that you don't really care about in making your decision to attend that college or university. So put out some questions. Hey, when we meet, I'd love to discuss these three topics. But I just wanted to give you a heads up so you can prepare, so we can go through the meeting and use your time wisely. You know, it's not great when we sit there as coaches and say, and give our kind of speech on where the program's going, and then we ask if you have any questions, and you look at mum and dad, no, not really. So it shows that you're not really prepared and you're not really that invested with knowing as much as you could possibly know during that visit. So great job on the questions. There's really not a wrong answer, but take control of your process. And some of the things that people that put inappropriate, no, go and be a little more upfront and go and take control of your visit to make sure that you're getting the most out of it. Do we want to do questions now or questions afterwards, Jack, with that?
Yeah, I think, Liz, you brought up a point potentially you wanted to discuss. Or did you want to wait for a little bit later to go over
I
that?
think it's good if we do it now before the visit is, Mark, if you just want to talk more about like how you get a visit or who initiates.
Yep. So hopefully you've all been reaching out to coaches at this point. And although you're not going to be able to do a campus visit right now, if you start becoming further along in the process with a coach to set up a Zoom meeting, you know, you can, I love it when recruits reach out and say, I really want to come on campus and visit. Here's some dates that I'm available. Do they work for you? Okay. Again, take an initiative to really plan, throw out some dates that will work for you and your family to go and take the time to visit. And then the coach will be able to get back with you, which works best with them, and setting up everything. You know, do it maybe a month in advance, so there can be some planning. If you really want to meet with everybody that was on that list, that's going to take some time to set up for the coach. So saying, hey, coach, I'm going to be visiting campus in 2 days. I'd love to meet with these people. I look forward to hearing from you. It's going to be tough. Again, it's not that it's not doable, but it's great to be able to go through the process, not rushed, and make sure you continue the conversation. But the coach will either, if they've seen you play, they really like what they saw, they spoke to you, they like, you know, you as a person, they're gonna say, hey, we need to set up a campus visit. Here are some dates. Let me know if any will work for you. But on the flip side, it's great for you if you really know that you'd love to go visit that school and meet more in depth about the program and you know, the academic interests, then feel free to reach out, throw out some dates. Even now, throw out some dates to do some Zoom meetings with the coach, with some current players. You know, it's going on, so don't miss out on that.
I have one other thing. I know that we didn't touch base on it yet, but the recruit questionnaires that are on all of our soccer pages, if you go on to Keuka Women's Soccer, that's another way to express your interest in the school, because as soon as you fill that recruit form out, it goes directly to our emails with all of the information that you list. And there's oftentimes like, what other schools are you looking at? There's a place for a video to input a video. There's all your personal information in there, your contact information. So that's another way to express your interest in visiting a school and wanting to learn more about the program, is through those recruit forms and questionnaires that are usually on a tab on the pages, on the soccer pages.
The one thing I would add to that is, if you're going to do that, fill it out completely. If you don't have results of SATs and stuff at this point. Just put that you haven't taken, but don't just fill out your first and last name and your email address, because ultimately that shows me that you're not really, again, that interested. Because schools need, some schools need more information. It's very easy for me to see if someone's going to be able to get into Geneseo or not if you list your GPA and your SAT scores, and then we can have that conversation. But try and fill out as much as you possibly can. It's going to take time, but again, it takes time if you're going to do it right.
Yeah, and after you fill it out, I would follow up with an email as well to the coach.
Great. Ready to go on? We'll do our next poll. We're going to questions now. Will be about during the visit. So we got 4 questions here, all related to during the visit. All right, we'll try to wrap up in about 20 seconds here. All right. So our results, and Coach Liz, I'll let you take it away.
All right, just looking through these answers with you guys. So it's kind of great to imagine being on a campus visit, and it's going to happen. So thinking about, getting to tour a campus and meet with college coaches and, meet the team, like those are great days. There's not a million of them. And I think for you guys, it's after the recruiting process, there's just nothing like it. So at the very end of this slide, I say have fun, but I encourage you to just, be yourselves and have a good time while you're there. Some of the things that can help you do that, obviously, are some of the preparation that Mark talked to you about. Another one is pretty obvious, but just show up on time so that you can be respectful of the coach's time. Sometimes a coach is going to be running from a morning practice to meet you, or has to get to another practice or a call or whatever it is. So I think just making sure that you've looked at the itinerary and you try to keep to the times that are on there can just show that you're respectful about what else the coach is doing that day. Coming prepared to ask questions of anybody that you meet with. So if you look at the itinerary ahead of time and you say, all right, I'm meeting with admissions and I have these players, these are just 3 things that I could talk about with each of them. So if I get into a situation where I You know, oh, now I'm with this player by myself. Like I just have something that I can quickly go to that I wanted to get answers to. Obviously, based on your poll answers, you have a good grasp of not being on your phone when you're on a visit. I think the best practice is turn it off and put it in your pocket because you might need it. You know, if you're somewhere on campus and, you know, you miss a handoff or something where you should be going to lunch and you're still at the academic building, or what might happen. So keep it on you, but just turn it off so you're not getting notifications and not tempted to look at it. The next question I think was about parent involvement.
Is that better? There you go.
I think I exited mine out, but that's okay. There it is. So, asking hard questions. So it's absolutely appropriate to ask hard questions about for the coach. One of those would be, where do you see the program headed? You know, what is the vision this coach has for the program? Maybe that coach has been there for a long time, and they have been in a very similar place for a long time. So, you know, it might be an appropriate question to say, what's next for this program? Are they looking to do something new to change, or are they just having a lot of success and they know what's worked for them? If it's a new coach, then what direction do they want to take the program in? The direction of the program is really important, just because then you get a real idea about what that coach values. Another question that you could ask about just hard questions is, okay, so once you know kind of the vision of the program, is how do you personally fit into that vision if they have or have not seen you? So you could ask them if they have seen you, how you would fit. And if they haven't seen you, you know, it's good to ask also just what they are looking for in order to accomplish their goals as a program. So what are they looking for in a player? What are they looking for in a teammate? What are they looking for in terms of character? And again, with that question, I think you can get a lot of insight into the values of the coach. So those answers, you know, it's hopefully you can kind of get the sense with that number 3 question, is that hopefully you don't feel like you're going there and you're just the one who's on hot seat. And gosh, I hope this coach really likes me, and I hope that I say everything right, and I hope I make a good impression. And what if this and what if that? It's really a two-way street. You know, hopefully you're asking those same questions of us as we are of you, so that it's a good mutual fit, right? So it's not so much of the coach, I hope they want me, but it's very much of, is this a good fit for me, right? So this is what I bring. Is this coach going to value these same things that I value? And then question number 4, while you have time with the players without coaches and parents present, asking them questions about what they do in their free time is totally appropriate and encouraged. I always say that the best information that you're going to get is from the players on the team when they are not with their coaches. There's a quote that says that team culture is what really happens when coaches are not present. And you could take that to also say that the team, what they say when there's no parents around and when there's no coaches around, is going to be the real meat of what it is like to be on that team. So as much time as you can spend with players and really asking them how they feel about their team, how they feel about their coaches, how they feel about their university, is going to give you a lot of insight into the experience that they're having. I think I skipped over number 2, during your meeting with coach, parents elaborating on your answers to the coach's questions is inappropriate, appropriate. You know, I think this is a really, obviously not a firm line, right? It's not a coaches or parents should never speak during a visit, and they should arrive and drop their children off and let them do it the whole time and pick them up at the end. But I certainly think that the player and parent dynamic that is on that the coach observes on the visit is a really important indicator for coaches to observe. So show that you trust your son or daughter when you're on those visits by allowing them to do the communicating. Is it going to be perfect? No, but coaches don't expect it to be. We're very used to communicating with high school and college age players. So those are expectations that we have. They're in control of the outcome of this process. And I think letting them go through it, they'll end up finding more of what they're looking for. So for those of you who don't have parents on the call, and for those of you who do, for those of you who don't have parents on the call, this is more for you to say, when you go on the visit, you can tell your parents, I have questions that I want to ask, and don't, like, I've got it, you know, like I can handle this and I'm going to speak up, and you don't have to look at your parents when a hard question comes. You've got it. And I think the biggest thing that you can prepare for, so you prepare questions, you can also prepare answers. So the two questions that I would say you should prepare answers for, number one is, what do you think you bring to a team? And then number two would be, what type of player are you? What are the qualities that you have on the field? So one is about, you know, the person that you are and the character that you have. And the second is about, you know, your assets that you would contribute on the field. And if you come kind of knowing, yeah, well, then it'll be easier when you get those questions from coaches. I think that's all my polling questions. And then again, just having fun. So enjoy those visits, be yourself as much as you can be. That's what the coaches are looking for anyways, is we just want to get to know you. You know, we want to enjoy having a conversation and just being ourselves with you as well. So it's part of the building of the relationship, you know, as you go from recruit to athlete on our teams. And that's one step, is the visit. So each time you meet a coach, you kind of just develop a better relationship with them. And the more you're yourself, you know, the easier it's going to be to make the transition to play for that coach as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Liz. We'll go to our third section here. Well, before we go to our third section, we'll go to our third poll. And this is after the visit. So we've got 4 questions here, all pertaining to after the visit. And there you go. Looks like we're pretty close. We'll wrap up in about 15 seconds. All right. So our results here, and Coach Christensen, you want to discuss tips for after the visit?
Thanks, Jack. Yes. So we'll take the questions in order. How long should you wait to contact a coach following your on-campus visit. When you decide where the school is going or what school you're going to, and believe it or not, that actually happens. They'll come on campus and a coach may send you texts or emails. And the next time we hear from some of these players is, oh, I've decided I'm coming to your college, or I've decided against it. So kind of a rule is that after your visit, if you send a thank you card within a couple of days after, the text on the way out of campus is nice, but it's kind of informal. It's the same thing with trying to text players back and forth through the communication process, whereas a phone call is much more personalized, and I think it's a dying art in a way. How often should you contact a coach until you make a decision? Kind of goes a little bit off of what I was saying. So we said send a text or an email every day. For me, that's a little overbearing. You don't want to come across as that type of player. Plus, I'm sure the coach has several recruits that he's dealing with on a daily basis. Send a text or email every couple months. Well, to me, like Liz said in the last part, this starts that kind of relationship, kind of getting to know you more than just a player. So, those emails, for me, and I think everyone on this call, every other week, maybe just a little email about what's going on, your schedule, you're still interested. I think right now, a lot of times everything's over the phone and there's texting going back and forth, but it's not really a fluent conversation. Whereas I think an email where you can document it, or a phone call is much better. Question number 3. If you didn't like your visit and you can't see yourself attending the school, you should continue to lead the coach on. Obviously, no one thought that. Inform coach immediately after a visit. I think this is two-folded. I think one is that you're saving the coach time as much as you're eliminating choices from your potential school that you choose. Certainly, a coach doesn't want to give information back and forth about their program if you really don't genuinely have an interest in attending the following year. Question 4, the best way to inform a coach of your college decision is via, the Facebook one, 0% phone call, and some said text. For me, I've got to be honest, I respect a player, even when they don't choose my school or our school, if they just shoot me a phone call. Okay, I think a text is the easy way out. I think the coach has put a lot of time, I'm sure, in that relationship and that development. So the least you could do, I think, is get on the phone. It's going to be hard, but I think it's not only the right thing to do. I think, again, the earlier the coach knows that you are not a potential student athlete, I think it's better for both sides. So just going over to the slide now, obviously everything about those 4 questions were being honest and upfront. After your visit, follow up with an email. We talked about that. Make a list of pros and cons. And I think sometimes if you do a number of visits, the picture gets blurry. So you kind of want to come home after a visit and kind of have, hey, this is what I liked about the school. This is what I didn't like. So that you can kind of weigh your options when it gets down and, hey, maybe I visited a school late in my junior year and didn't overnight. Now I'm visiting a couple last schools in September of my senior year. I think if you have the list of pros and cons, I think it can keep it fresh in your head and ultimately help you make a decision. Update coach on playing schedules, events. Yep, that's what the communication is after your overnight, just to kind of keep informed. Hey, this is what I'm doing or not doing. This is kind of what's been going on in my life. I will say this. I'm always intrigued by the players that give me a little bit more than just soccer stuff. Because for me, I think it's about the relationship, much like Liz said. And the more well-rounded we can see these athletes and the more we can get to know about them, the better off it is when you come in. It's not like you're a stranger. I know way more about your family than I do about my own. So I just think that connection every couple of weeks is huge. And obviously we talked about notifying the coach of your decision via phone call, and that should come, for me, you can tell players when they're sitting in your office all the time, like, just be honest and upfront. And then, they go home and it's like months and months go by where you've had this conversation and you've spent time with these players and they don't even end up coming at all. So the sooner you know, hey, this isn't a school for me, let the coach know, because I think he'll thank you as well. Or she'll thank you.
Yes, I'll elaborate to that point too, because I know, you know, I think it's normal to have that anxiety that you're going to say no to a place, but all the coaches on this Zoom and all the coaches I know, we're used to, you know, we have no's that happen every single year in the recruiting class. So you're not hurting our feelings. If anything, you're really helping, like Coach Christensen said, you're helping us know that, hey, we've got to turn the page on this player and move on to the next one. And the other piece I'll say, it will help you get better at having these conversations. It will help you get better at having these conversations when someday you're applying for jobs and you have to turn down one job for another. Like, these are conversations you're going to have in your life, and you will get better at having them if you do them the right way, if you pick up the phone and you're upfront and mature about it in the process.
And I think the thing I'll just add to that, you have 5 coaches sitting in front of you right now. And not one of us, if you called and said you weren't coming to our school, is going to do anything negative. If anything that comes to this, it's just about a new level of respect for you. So as hard as that phone call is, there's not a coach that I know of or that I'm friends with that wouldn't say they're not happy that you've come to this decision, even if it's not to the one we're coaching.
All right. Anything else, coaches, we'll add to this? I'm ready to move on. Good. So what's next? And then we'll open it up to questions. You know, at this point, we should have a fairly good list, again, depending on kind of where you are in the process, how big or small that list is, but then sending emails to those coaches, because the last webinar that we did was all about drafting and creating that email template and your player profile that you'd be sending to coaches. And then from there, you know, the discourse that goes back and forth with those coaches, and then hopefully setting up virtual tours, campus visits, Zoom calls with coaches in that process going forward. And so you're aware for next week's webinar, our last one, you know, we're going to open this up more for kind of Q&As, any things we've missed, you know, any tips as you've been in discussion with other coaches that we can help with. And then we also plan to bring in several current or recently graduated college players, you know, that are Empire alums that have gone through the process and now are, you know, coming to the end of their college career or just graduated college, and can really speak to, you know, how they lived through it and what really worked well for them. So at this point, I'd love to open it up for questions. I'll stop my screen share here so we can see everybody's face. And yeah.
Jack, I want to put a shout out on here. Brendan's on the call right now. I received an email from Brendan. It was fantastic. It was engaging. It was informative. It was kind of like a model email. So, Brendan, I'd like to say well done. And you've obviously been taking in what's been going on these last couple of weeks, because it was fantastic. So good job.
I think just going off that last slide that Jack went over, I think our main goal for next week is to just answer all of the questions you may have. So that's a big action item for you guys coming out of this webinar series, because there will be college players on the call. There will be us 5 coaches, and we just want to make sure that you're taking advantage of that opportunity to have these players and coaches sitting in front of you to ask questions that you have. So make sure you go home this week and you come up with two or three questions that you might have and that you want answered from a coach or from a player, because that is going to be the main purpose of that last webinar. So we will not have a slideshow. We won't have a ton to say. It's going to be on you guys for that last webinar.
What else? Other questions? Hayden asked me to share this screen because he didn't get all the notes up, so I'll put this back up, especially if anybody else needs it too. So there you go, Hayden, for next week.
Guys, looks like you have a chat question.
Yep. All right. So question was, is it too early as a freshman to start sending these emails?
And I believe this is from a female parent. So Jess, Liz, you probably would be better equipped to answer this one.
Assuming, I'm making the assumption that you're a freshman now and not going into your freshman year in the fall. So you're going into your sophomore year in the fall.
I don't know, Abby, are you going into, I know you were younger, where are you, Abby?
We can touch on both
Yeah.
situations. Going into sophomore year. All right, great. So going into sophomore year, it's absolutely perfect timing to start sending your emails. It's kind of crazy, I know, to imagine your freshman year is over and you're basically a sophomore now. But the sophomore year is a really good time to start with that really big list and start sending out some feelers and see what comes back.
Perfect. Jess, anything else you want to add?
No, I think
Okay.
that's spot on. I think going into your sophomore year, there's no better time. And like Coach Liz said, a bigger list is probably more appropriate for you going into your sophomore year. And then you can kind of start to narrow it down as you start hearing from coaches and what have you.
Great. Thanks for the question, Todd. And Riley Reese, who's on my group with the 17 boys, says, when should we start talking to colleges, or basically, Riley, you're talking about tuition, like when finances, when should those questions be raised? Is that what you're specifically talking about? When's it appropriate to talk about that? Yeah. Okay. I mean, Riley, I think you can have those questions pretty early on in the process, because we as coaches, we know that's a huge factor in almost every family's equation. And so we're used to having those conversations, and we're certainly used to directing players and families in the right direction to get those things. Most schools now have like an online calculator right on their admissions page. If it's not right on their admissions page, the coach of that specific college can definitely direct you towards it. And that will give you a rough kind of ballpark number. And then the coach can give you more specific details on, you know, when their specific financial aid office starts to make the more formal financial aid package, because those timelines are a little bit different at every school. So, anything else? Anybody else would add to that? Thanks, Riley. Dr. Hoyle here. What should you do if you contact a coach and they don't answer? Anybody else want to take this one?
Move on.
Yeah.
No, I don't know if you should necessarily move on if it's a school that you're diehard to attend, and soccer is not that much of an impact for you. Then you can continue to look into that. But I think that if soccer is a motivating factor for you and the coach has not answered, maybe you could do a double check and make sure you've got the right email, and make sure, or you can ask someone else a part of the school. But if there's absolutely no answer and no interest, I think we've stated before, you want to be wanted at that school and you want to feel a part. You want to know the coach wants you there. So I think that, I don't know, is that the best? Anyone else have anything else to say about that?
Yeah, I would agree. Just follow up if they've got assistants listed on the website. Touch base with an assistant. Anybody that you can kind of send an email to related to the program. I wouldn't send emails to athletic directors or supervisors or anything like that. I think, again, it's your process. It's where you want to get the best out of yourself. So you need the right environment to that. So, you know, reach out again, double back around. If you're still not getting any luck, yeah, I would say that that's probably not the best fit for you.
Is there kind of some exception with regards to particular programs too? If it's a Division I program, they may not be able to get back to you. Could there potentially be a void in the coaching staff for whatever reason? Potentially they're changing coaching staffs. And also the makeup of kind of the department itself. There are still some programs that have part-time head coaches, which is getting more and more rare, and limited assistant coaches too. So I think those are some variables just to express that potentially it may take longer sometimes if any of those things are going on, and particularly if it's a Division I coach and they're in a dead period or a time when they can't communicate. Would you guys agree with some of those variables?
Yeah, that was the one I was going to add, especially knowing, Dr. Hoyo talking about Mateus being a younger boy, knowing those time windows, especially for Division I, when they're not allowed to respond to you. So knowing that information that way, they're probably not intentionally disregarding you. They're just doing their job in that regard.
I think just one more thing about the tuition, asking about the tuition. I wouldn't be turned away by the sticker price that is listed on the school, especially for Division III schools. I think that number can oftentimes turn people away without even digging in and asking the coach questions and finding out about scholarships and what your GPA can do to lower that cost. So don't turn away just because you see a large sticker price on a school, and if you really enjoy it there, and look into it so that you can. A lot of times it's not what you're paying, that huge sticker price.
Hayden has a question. Is it appropriate to ask for an official visit? I think it's appropriate to ask if the coach has seen you play and you've had honest conversations with him about where he sees you fitting in within the program. Because even if you do get an answer that's a no, Hayden, if you ask, hey, can I visit? And they say no, you'll know where they see you fitting in the recruiting process. And you'll unfortunately know that, okay, I've got to look elsewhere because they don't see me as a viable recruit in this recruiting class. But it is an appropriate question to ask, as long as they've seen you play and so forth. I can't imagine there's very many programs or very many coaches that will bring a kid on campus to an official visit if they haven't seen them play at all. I don't know of any.
I think moving on to that next question about legacy, I think it's what you value as a player. So do you value a coach that's been there for a long time and has been a part of that program and built it, or do you want to be a part of a newer coach's program and see what their vision and where they want to take that program to? So I think that is up to you as a person and what kind of program you want to be a part of. Maybe it's a new program with a new coach and you want to be that one player that comes in and changes the direction of that program, or do you want to be a part of a program that's established and already very successful? So I think that's up to you and what you want out of that certain program that you're going into.
Now, to be clear, because I actually interpret that question differently.
Did you?
Yeah, Dr. Hoyle, were you talking about legacy in terms of like if you've had a family member that's already gone to that college or university? Because that's the way I interpreted it. Yes. Okay. So legacy can play a couple different variables at a college or a university. Like I know at Fisher, we have a tuition discount. If there is a family member, a direct relative that's gone through the college, it may sometimes help with, just being admitted, but that's going to vary college to college, university to university on if they take the legacy portion into account. Other questions? All right, I think we'll hold it here then. That way you can formulate some more questions next week for our last one. And as Jess mentioned, please come prepared with 2, 3, 4 questions for next week, because we really want to get your input and have a discussion next week on our last one. Anything else? Anybody else wants to add? All right, have a great night. We'll see you next week.